Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini series with the Los Angeles Angels. And as we sit here on July 17th, we've made it to the All-Star break. The good news for our Los Angeles Angels is that we've got the second best record in baseball here in 2028. The bad news is that despite having the second best record in baseball, we're in second place in our division and poised to be a wild card team if the season were to end today. So although we're playing good ball again this year after a 94-win division title in 2027, our third year with the team when we finally got to a winning record and finally guided the team to the playoffs, we're not poised to position ourselves as well for the playoffs this season. And we've spent a lot of time offline trying to figure out if there's something we can do in the trade market. The players on the trade block are not all that exciting at this point. Still 2 weeks into the trade deadline, so it's possible prices come down and or someone who's a little more interesting to us is a little more available in the trade market. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's an obvious solution there. And we've also spent a lot of time just trying to find players to fill the holes on our team. The most significant to me is a corner outfielder who's a good defender with a decent bat. And again, not really a perfect fit anywhere. And the prices for guys who aren't on the trade block, not surprisingly, generally even higher than the guys who are on the trade block. We have a trade that we have been considering for a couple of weeks now, or not a couple of weeks now, for several days. I think about a week in game time we've been thinking about it. And that was the offer that we received from the Tampa Bay Rays exactly a week ago to trade us Shane McClanahan for Jake Riley. Just going to finally put a pin in this one. I think it's a very interesting trade. McClanahan, certainly a big-time pitcher, just named to his fifth All-Star team, having another really good year and is locked up for 3.5 seasons. So although he's fully priced at $31 million a year, still a top pitcher, and it wouldn't be a pure rental. We'd have to give up Jake Riley, who we picked 14th a year ago, to pick him up. Riley, certainly not as good as McClanahan this year. Unlikely to be as good as McClanahan next year. I think when we start getting out into 2030 and 2031, that's where, if things go well with Riley's development, he could be better than McClanahan. So if we're just thinking of being a win-now team, and we are not likely to be playing too many years here with the Angels, it says to go for McClanahan. If we were playing this for the long term, I think it's more of a interesting decision. I'd probably lean towards the younger, cheaper guy who we think can be just as good, if not better, in a few seasons in Riley. But ultimately, we're not going to make the trade because we specifically drafted Riley last year with a pretty negative personality, including low work ethic, just to see whether we could actually successfully develop somebody like this. Not a profile that I would typically draft. Thus far, we've done pretty good with his development, and I want to keep that experiment going. When we get into the long-term play, maybe I'll learn something that will help me make better decisions for the game that we're going to be playing for many months with what we learn. Did get the comment from some viewers to take a look at what else we could get for McClanahan. And unfortunately, the only other guy in our organization who can get him straight up is Andres Rodriguez, our star center fielder, who was our first-round pick a year earlier than Riley in 2026. He has filled a big gap for us in center field, put up a 3.4 WAR here midway through the season. And not a guy that we would be willing to give up for McClanahan, as good as he is. So we'll keep exploring if there's options, but if we get away from these two top players, it's pretty hard for us to put a deal together for McClanahan right now. But we'll continue investigating that and a lot of other options over these next couple weeks as we go through the All-Star break and get closer to the trade deadline. And we swept our first series coming out of the All-Star break, took care of the Athletics in 3 straight at home. Before we get to the end of the month and before we get to the trade deadline, got 3 at home against the Cubs, and then we'll be on the road for 4 in Texas and a final game on the road in Seattle before we get to August. So a lot of divisional games here in this final couple weeks of July. Still haven't made any moves yet. Taking a look at the standings. We are still a game behind the Mariners. They've won 8 in a row. We've won 7 in a row. So both of our teams are distinguishing themselves even further as the top 2 teams in baseball. But unfortunately for us, although we're 7.5 up on the final wild card spot and looking very likely to make the playoffs, we would have to be in a wild card game if the season were to begin today. And with just a week to go until the trade deadline, the disappointing news is that the trade block really hasn't changed at all. And some of the more interesting players might not still have any interest in joining us. A couple interesting relievers on the market. Ryan Helsley is a guy who is definitely attainable, although they're right now still searching for one of the better players or one of the top prospects in our organization to bring him on board for a good solid reliever who's making $12.5 million a year. Price seems a bit exorbitant to me to give up a top major leaguer, a top starting pitcher, or one of the best prospects in our organization to bring him on board. So I don't necessarily think there's a lot to do there. We've got money to bring on talent. Edwin Diaz making $21.8 million a year for the Dodgers, although they're not using him in that closer role. The issue is he still is not willing to at least come to our team on a trade. He would fit really well with what we need. Obviously not the hitter that we're looking for, but certainly would help us lengthen our strong bullpen even more. Francisco Alvarez of the Mets could be a interesting catcher to give us a little bit of an upgrade there, but the price, once again, Riley or Rodriguez, 2 of the top young players in our organization and our last 2 first-round draft picks, seems unrealistic. Byron Buxton, I believe, was unwilling to waive his 10-5 rights, and he is still in that situation. Another catcher, Ryan Jeffers, certainly cheaper to bring on board, but again, we're giving up a pretty big major league player or a pretty big prospect to bring a nice hitting catcher who's average defensively on board. Could certainly upgrade the position offensively for us, but I think the price is a bit too high. Jose Ramirez, last time we checked in, I believe he was still using his 10-5 rights and still exercising those as well. So I'm going to continue spending some time with some of the more lightly regarded players who are available, but just don't know if there's a deal for us to make, unfortunately. And I don't know that we're going to do anything as far as our pitchers. We did take a flyer on Jacob deGrom, who was injured in free agency, and he is a week away from potentially beginning a rehab assignment. Don't know exactly what he's going to look like on the other side of this injury, but he's been pretty effective the last couple of years in Texas when he's been healthy. So the hope is that he'll be a nice boost to our roster sometime next month, and certainly could see him taken over as a 3rd or 4th starter for us at this point. Taj Bradley's been disappointing this year with a 5 ERA, but when we look at his skill set, still probably one of the better pitchers on our team. And a guy who's no longer on the trade block, but we did look at last winter when Minnesota was thinking about trading him, is Matt Wallner. Now with the Yankees, I think he could be a slight upgrade in left field for us, defensively over Nolan, and probably a small upgrade offensively over Nolan as well. The issue is that he's pretty expensive to get. We'll have to send them Nolan plus probably a couple other useful-ish players to bring him on board, which seems like a lot for very small upgrade in left. The other issue is that he's dealing with a torn hammy and he's going to be out for another 2 to 3 weeks. So I think over the near term, we're going to continue just kind of monitoring things, at least get through this next series home against the Cubs, and then before we head on the road for those final 5 games in the month against our division foes, maybe revisit the potential options out there. But I'm getting increasingly bearish that we're actually going to be able to get a trade done this July. And we took 2 out of 3 against the Cubs at home, lost the final game, so our winning streak finally did come to an end. That being said, the Mariners have also lost a little bit recently, so we are in a flat-footed tie with the Mariners for the division and for the best record in all of baseball as we sit here on July 27th, 7.5 up on those final wild card spots in the American League. So still positioned very well to make the playoffs, but the goal isn't just to make the playoffs this year, but hopefully contend for a title. So I'd love to do something to help improve our chances, but the pickings are very slim. And we split our first 2 games with the division rival Rangers in Texas. We're still in a flat-footed tie with the Mariners for the division lead and the best record in baseball. Just got a very interesting trade proposal from the New York Mets. They're willing to trade us Juan Soto. So only a few years into this contract, the Mets are looking to get out of it, although I think it does look like an OOTP oh, interesting. Okay, there is a way for them to I think years ago there was a limit on how long the contracts could be, 10 years. But it looks like they did give Soto his real contract because they gave him the 10 years, and then he's got a 5-year extension after that. So he is going to be locked up for a long time. $51 million a year for Soto, even though he's batted .228 and .240 each of the past 2 seasons. He has boosted that to .265 this year. Not a great fielder, but still a very productive hitter. Wouldn't be the upgrade that we're looking for in left field, but he'd be a much better bat than Nolan if we were to bring him on board. They're looking for the minor leaguer Sean Gamble. It's interesting. We talked about our 2027 first-round draft pick in Jake Riley and our 2026 first-round draft pick in Mr. Rodriguez. Now we're talking about our first-round draft pick of this playthrough, Sean Gamble, who we picked 2nd overall in 2025. Number 22 prospect in baseball right now. He hit .309 for us in 269 at-bats in Double-A. Promoted him to Triple-A earlier this month, where he's hitting a blistering .371 with 9 doubles, 3 triples, and 4 home runs in just 70 at-bats. He's a guy who is competent defensively across a ton of different positions at this point. You can see we're training him up to be as proficient as possible in third base, even though he doesn't have a great arm. Captain personality, a lot of positive personality traits, really good speed. And his bat is pretty much major league ready, except for the home runs. We don't think he's going to really do a ton in terms of the gap power, the home run power, or the eye, but do think his contact could be well above average. Certainly in the mix to be a September call-up for us this year. As good as Soto would be at that price tag, I don't know that he's enough of a difference maker for us. Interesting. The first 3 first-round draft picks of this series, Sean Gamble, who we picked 2nd overall in 2025, Andres Rodriguez, who we picked 6th overall in 2026, and then Jake Riley, who we picked 14th overall last year, are the only players the Mets would take straight up for Mr. Soto. So I don't think we're going to get anything done there. Certainly bringing him on board, he would help us this year, but as much as we're a win-now team, it's not just all about this year, and really looking forward to seeing hopefully what guys like Gamble and Riley will be able to do alongside Rodriguez at the major league level in the not-too-distant future. And we've finally made it to trade deadline day. We continue to play some really good baseball, 8-2 over our last 10, 3 wins in a row, and we're a game up on the Mariners for the best record in the AL West and the best record in all of baseball for that matter. Addison Barger still tied for 2nd in the league in hitting. Vlad Guerrero tied for the league lead in ribbies, 2nd in OPS. Schwellenbach 3rd in the league in ERA, tied for 2nd in wins. And Joan Duran, despite a less impressive season than he had for us in the second half of last year after we traded for him, is leading the American League with 25 saves. As I noted, we're at trade deadline day. Guerrero Jr., 481 average last week, 13 hits and 27 at-bats, 3 homers and 7 ribbies, is the AL Player of the Week. Kind of our last chance to pursue some trade options. I don't know that there's anything we're going to do. The amount of time I've spent offline in recent days in real time looking to see if there was a trade out there is kind of pathetic. But I just don't think there's anything that's going to move the needle for us at a price that I'd be willing to pay. And as we sit here on July 31st, we're playing our best baseball of the year, a brilliant 20-5 record in the month of July. 1st in the American League in runs scored, and we are in the top 6 in every major hitting category. Average and steals, pretty efficient in terms of our base running. The defense has also improved, 5th in the league in defensive efficiency, although we're middle of the pack in zone rating. And the pitching, pretty darn good at this point as well, 2nd in the AL in runs allowed. And we're the top 6 in every major pitching category. So I don't feel like we have to do anything desperate. I think we're a contender. Could we be better? Yeah. Are we one of the favorites, though? I think we certainly are at this point. Taking a look at what Nolan's done for us this year, he's put up a 108 WRC+. The issue is he's still below replacement level because he's just such a butcher in the field with that -12 zone rating and 839 defensive efficiency in left field. He's just totally killing us out there because he just doesn't know how to play defense. But the costs of an upgrade are a little high. I'm going to keep looking. I'd like to upgrade from him, but I just don't know if there's anything out there. Dylan Cruz has put up a 111 WRC+ for us as the half of the platoon that's starting more often against left-handed pitching. But he's a positive WAR player driven by his better offense and certainly better defense than Nolan has put out there for us. But when we look against right-handed pitching and the way that we think their splits set up, it's close. But, Nolan's ability to draw walks definitely stands out a little bit to me. See if there's something we can do. definitely wouldn't mind another corner outfielder who's a little better than Cruz or Nolan. But as I've talked about, I just don't see an answer. And we did check in again on Diaz, Buxton, and Ramirez, and all of them are still unwilling to waive their no-trade clauses and or their 10-5 rights. So I don't know that any of them would have been a true difference maker for us, but not going to get the option at this point. You can see Wallner still on the trade block for the Yankees, still 1 to 2 weeks away. There's a lot of things we can trade for him. The issue is that all of the things that we can trade for him are pretty good major league players or top prospects. And unfortunately, Nolan, who'd I'd happily give up straight up for him, just doesn't have a ton of trade value. Gets a couple other players into the mix for us to move on from potentially, but no one that really tips the scales. So it's really kind of a 3-for-1 deal to move on Nolan for Wallner. Wallner's bat, if he's healthy, is a little bit better against right-handed pitching. And although the range still isn't great, he has in right field, although still a below-average outfielder, been less below average than Nolan's been in left field for us this year. And we've got a trade together with the Yankees. We are going to bring Matt Wallner on board. Even though he's recovering from that torn hammy, as I talked about, I think he will be an upgrade from Nolan. And they're going to also throw in 3, I call them prospects, but they're all guys in their mid-20s who haven't really established themselves yet. Really just a little bit of organizational depth for us in Alexis Torres, who's a 25-year-old who's in Double-A. Manuel Sequeira, 25-year-old who is in AAA, putting up a decent offensive season there. Looks like he could be a usable 6th infielder going forward. Not anyone to get too excited about. And then they would also throw in 24-year-old reliever Cassius Thomas, who hasn't even made it to rookie ball or out of rookie ball yet, although it does look like they've just promoted him to no, he still is in rookie ball. So 24, soon to be 25-year-old out of Duke who hasn't made it out of rookie ball. Certainly not a big-time prospect. Glad to get rid of Nolan. I think my goal for the long-term play is to play with a team with guys whose names have easy pronunciations. So a lot of it is just to get rid of Nolan for that reason. We're definitely paying a lot for Wallner, given that these prospects are kind of meh. We're also giving up Walbert Urena, 24-year-old reliever who's put up a 3.57 ERA for us at AAA Salt Lake this year. Those of you who have followed me over the years know why I'm willing to include him. Throws in triple digits, but he's going to walk a lot of batters. So although he's probably not even arguably, probably clearly the 3rd best player in this trade behind Wallner and Nolan, willing to include him. I didn't love having to include Felix Morabel, good fielding second base prospect who's recently promoted to AAA and hasn't hit incredibly well there, and that's my issue with him, although I think he could be a decent contact hitter. The gap power and home run power both likely to be below average, almost 23 years old. I don't think there's any question that we're giving up the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best players in this trade in some combination. And it's not like Wallner is way better than Nolan, but I think he is a little better than Nolan. And Nolan just really hasn't worked out for us. I'm sick of his poor fielding in left field. So we're going to go ahead and hopefully get a little bit of an upgrade defensively and a little bit of upgrade offensively at left field for this year. We're going to go ahead and complete that trade, and at least we did something. And with Wallner going right to the IL, one of the reasons we were willing to move on from Nolan was we've got Anthony Scull, another left-handed hitting outfielder in AAA, and he's at over 300 over the last season plus in AAA for us. Don't think he's ever going to be a great hitter, but think that his contact and his gap power could both be a bit above average. Good speed, and he's also a very good fielding outfielder, so we'll give him a chance to play left field for us against right-handed pitching over the next week or so till Wallner is hopefully healthy and well. And then in early August, we'll have to make some roster decisions. And we were able to throw Wallner on the list, backdated a couple of days. So he's got 8 days of IL time left. Only 2 days away from DeGrom being able to hopefully come back. So the hope is that as we get into the month of August and September, DeGrom and Wallner and eventually Ben Joyce will be able to help us and bolster our team, even though we only made the one trade. And then as we get into the month of September, going to have some interesting decisions as far as potential call-ups then, with some of our former top picks banging on the door in AAA. And we did lose the final game of July to Seattle, 4-5 in 10 innings. So that means we are once again in a flat-footed tie for the best record in baseball. Got a couple more against Seattle before we'll be home against Houston. Obviously, was still a very strong month in July for us on the field. The record, as you will likely remember, fell to 20-6 with that loss on the final day of the month, but still an outstanding month for us. The top pitcher in the American League was Christian Scott, 4-0 with a 1.17 ERA, as he has rapidly turned his season around over the last month or so. And another guy who's turning his season around is Kyle Tucker. Hit .322, 10 homers, and 26 ribbies to be named the AL Batter of the Month. So he is definitely playing better of late. Good to see Tucker and Guerrero Jr., the two big acquisitions from a couple of off seasons ago, finally producing somewhat. Tucker still not great this year with a 116 WRC plus. It's actually the lowest mark that he's put up for us, but his 2.6 WAR looks like he's on pace to having the most WAR that he's ever had for us in a season. And Guerrero Jr., of course, having a big-time season for us with a 151 WRC plus, has the batting average close to 300 with 25 homers and 83 ribbies with 2 full months left in the season. So he's finally producing the way that we would hope. The only negative as we get past the trade deadline and begin this month of August is that the young center fielder, Andres Rodriguez, going to be out with a dead arm for the next 2 weeks. So that is certainly not optimal. He's got a 3.7 WAR on the season now. The batting average 239. Does have 18 homers and 42 ribbies. Scored 72 runs for us. OPS close to 800, and he's put up a 120 WRC plus for us this year. Fielding-wise, zone rating, defensive efficiency, and arm all above average, and still has made just one error this season. We were a little concerned with the low error rating that he might be bobbling a lot of balls in the outfield or having him hit off the heel of his glove. But so far he's been pretty productive, although we're going to be missing him for 2 weeks at this point. But we are in a really good spot with these Angels as we prepare for the final couple months of the season. Although we didn't do anything earth-shattering in the trade market, Still feel like we're well positioned to certainly make the playoffs and hopefully win another division title. And as we've talked about, if we win the division title this year, there's a pretty good chance that we'll have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So that is certainly our goal. And we'll find out how the rest of the regular season goes and whether or not we achieve that goal in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.